Hello, everybody. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
Yeah, looks good on the stream. Yeah,
Nice.
we're getting that notification.
Uh-oh. Boink.
Hi everyone. Welcome to Building Generative Art with Minecraft, a performative lecture by artist Travess Smalley here with us today. So if you haven't seen it, in Travis's current exhibit with Ender Gallery, Chance Language Resource Pack, he's exploring Minecraft's potential for creating emergent concrete poetics within the game. So we'll drop a link to that so that you can view it later after this presentation today within the chat. But we're in for a bit of a treat today as Travis goes through both his process to develop generative work within Minecraft as well as beyond. That ability to create new meanings or iterations of an artwork is one of the primary appeals of digital media, at least for folks like us who are working within it. And interactive platforms such as Minecraft really offer us new channels as artists as well as audiences to explore these types of generative practices and projects. So if you do have any questions that emerge throughout this presentation, for Travis or for us Ender Gallery curators here, John, Kat, and Sarah. I don't know if Sarah's name is, I think Sarah's name is cut off, but hi, Sarah.
Hi.
Yeah, our faces aren't usually revealed during the Minecraft presentations, the Ender presentation, so this might be new.
More than just an avatar.
Yeah, but yeah, please drop those comments anytime within the text chat as we'll be watching and can read them out to Travis. And if you're not familiar, the text chat is located on the right-hand side of this video if you're watching on desktop, and underneath the video if you're watching through a mobile or tablet device. And yeah, even if you're just having trouble with sound or anything, feel free to jump in the text box and we can try to help you. Before we begin the presentation, I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the land that the Mackenzie Art Gallery is located on. So that's the Mackenzie Art Gallery is the co-host of the Ender Gallery programs. That they are located on Treaty 4 territory, which is the homeland of the Cree, the Saulteaux, the Lakota, Nakota, and Dakota, and Métis peoples. And we, being digital artists, are located all over the world and in different spaces, and our servers are in different locations than the artists and such. But it's none of these practices that we discussed today could be possible without the dependent relationship we have upon the land. Travis, I'm going to hand it over to you to start your presentation, and we'll switch up.
All right, awesome. Yeah. Okay, so I'll switch over to sharing my screen, and I'm going to turn the video off. Do one, make sure I got everything set up right. Totally share. All right, am I coming through? Can everyone see the screen? Awesome. All right, yeah, okay. Hey, everyone. So the presentation and stream I'm about to do has videos and gameplay that has like kind of quick flashing successions of images, and that's just kind of a warning for those who have photosensitivity epilepsy. Okay, so last month I gave a presentation about my art practice and generative systems in Minecraft to a group of art students in Redvers, Saskatchewan through Ender Gallery and the Mackenzie Art Gallery. And today I want to give an annotated version of that talk where I'll discuss my art practice, some kind of context and historical examples of generative art and design, and how Minecraft and its use of procedural generation has affected the way I think about art making. The video in the background is documentation of JL2579's 17-day live stream traveling to the edge of the Minecraft map on a minecart. I'll come back to this live stream later, but I thought it was a nice place to start. Okay, so first, just a little bit about me, my practice. I'm interested in generative systems, creative software, and drawing. I've been writing programs that infinitely generate portraits and that make landscape paintings, where each image is randomly generated and unique. I've noticed symmetries between programming and painting, and also between programming and nature, which make me want to program and also paint. I've recently made some liquid light shows and also some computer graphics using shaders. I print these out in various ways on various materials. These are prints on velvet. I scan things back into the computer so that I can print them back out again. I've been making daily pseudo-random pixel paintings called pixel rugs. And these have kind of had a lot of different forms. They existed this summer in an exhibition of pin plotter drawings on paper. It was in this really great gallery called Arcade on Stadium in Provo, Utah, which is like half arcade, half gallery. And a lot of the reference material for these were like pixel art drawings and grid systems. I'm interested in how images change when they are printed, when they are digitized. The next thing I want to show you is a kind of short presentation about using scripting, chance, and negative space and loops in my practice. The screen recording in the background is a script I wrote in AppleScript that gives Photoshop instructions to make drawings of flowers. Titled Petal Shapeless Stem version 9, in this version I'm experimenting with new shapes and leaf types the flower can generate. I write scripts like this to explore small elements I can compile into more complex drawing programs. The script is filled with random number generators, and no two images or flowers are the same. When working on this project, I've been collecting floral motifs and abstractions from other artists and painters, spiritualists, photographers, game makers, scientists, naturalists, sculptors, poets, software developers, Anna Zemenkova here, Minecraft, William Henry Fox Talbot, Anna Haskell, Emma Kuhn, Seraphin Lewis, William Morris, Ruth Asawa, Lee Bonaku, Osamu Sato, to name some of my favorites. I'm interested in all the definitions and borders and constraints other creators set when they are making flowers. One of the things that draws me to scripting is how I can control the borders and constraints of the type of flowers I want to generate. Last summer, I moved from New York up to Providence, Rhode Island, and for the first time in years, I've been taking isolated walks in nature. As a student, I was introduced to the strategy of leaving room for chance and negative space in my work. It happened in a workshop on creating compositions of text. The instructor used a printed photo shopping catalog and a sharp pair of scissors. She rotated the catalog 25 degrees and cut a clean square through the entire booklet. Out fell a stack of small cut squares. Each one was a dynamic, irregular, asymmetrical composition of text. The Dadaists, the Surrealists, and Beatniks all used this form of cut-up randomness to generate poetry. In this zine from the 60s, William Burroughs had this poem that was gridded on a piece of paper, and at the bottom it read, "To be read every which way." The idea being that you cut up this grid and you could reorganize it to create a whole new poem. When making collages, it's not always the shape cut out that's interesting, but it could be the hole left in the paper or the scrap that's left behind. This is something that Matisse understood. It might not be the mark of my hand that is interesting, but the exact inverse, the absence, the ghost, the memory, the impression, the debris. The ancient Taoist text, the Tao Te Ching, beautifully speaks to the power of negative space. In this translation, it reads, 30 spokes converge upon a single hub, but it is on the hole in the center that the use of the cart hinges. We make a vessel from a lump of clay. It is the empty space within the vessel that makes it useful. We make doors and windows for a room, but it is these empty spaces that make the room livable. Thus, while the tangible has advantages, it is the intangible that makes it useful. I'm interested in writing programs that show me new negative spaces. While scripting, I'm swimming in a pool of chance. I write a set of actions, but I don't know exactly what those actions will be carried out upon. I run the script, see the results, adjust the program, and run it again. It's a process filled with repetition, both from me and from the computer. In programming, there is a principle known as dry. Don't repeat yourself. If you're repeating yourself in the code, you might be doing it wrong, or you might be being inefficient. But currently, I'm immersed in these repetitions. My scripts are filled with loops. I'm swimming in the loop. I take comfort in the words of Carl Craig. When I remix a track, I must listen to the same loop more than 10,000 times. There are always secrets and treasures hidden deep within the loop. Carl Craig worked under the pseudonym Psyche, and he has this one song called Elements. That's one of my favorites. It's like 7 minutes. It's like a techno sauna. Feels like effervescent and pounding. There are parts that are distinctly digital and parts that are distinctly not. There are rhythms that loop and synths that loop. And in that, like Brian Eno also, I feel like, is a touchstone for this. Understood loops too. On the back diagram of the back cover of Discrete Music, there was an operational diagram for how he made the album. It shows that he made the record using both an echo unit and 2 tape recorders to create reverberated loops of music. In my work, I often use repetition, reproduction, reverberation, and echoings. I use scanners, printers, and Photoshop and cameras to recapture images that I've made. And for me, an image is rarely ever finished, and most of my work cycles, being used and remediated into various forms and books that are printed and also exist as an archive of digital files. The script is running and generating new landscapes, sparse and unnatural, and I'm slowly learning how I want to shape them, through repetition mostly. So the next thing I want to talk about is just kind of a little bit of a background on how I relate to these ideas of randomness, generative systems, generative design, generative art, and this is all kind of a build-up to like why Minecraft was so impactful for me in these concepts. But yeah, I want to talk a little bit from the kind of teaching perspective of how when I talk to students about generative design and art, how I kind of position it for them. This comes from Daniel Lefcourt, who is another is faculty at RISD, and he has been working on this collection of Photoshop actions that students can download to try to experiment with automation in Photoshop, and he has this like really nice kind of definition of generative design on the website that I like. Generative design is a way of thinking and working systematically. Often designers choose to work systematically in order to create more variations of a design theme. For example, if one thinks about color, shape, position, and rotation as variables of a composition or pattern, one can then try adjusting each variable in order to iterate through many possible compositions. Here in this additive process example, we have like Garfield and Sonic and some characters, and we're looking at their head shape and then their like facial features that have been segmented, and then we can see all like possible versions of that. So like Garfield eyes with a Sonic head, or Homer with a Pikachu face, right? Or like this other version of it, right, where we have different cartoons done by different cartoonists, and then it's doing them in all the other cartoonist styles. So you can kind of see how they would handle, like how Karl Barks might handle Batman. I thought this was a really nice diagram too. And I saw this, another kind of simple version, right, where we have plastic cups to make this kind of paper doll, and we have all these different processes of character creation, where it's like we have the different hairstyles, we have the different body features that we could pick from. I mean, clothes that we can pick from, and then I think there's like one more layer. Yeah, the glasses. And so, yeah, like generative systems, meaning we have these two inputs on the left, and we could make all of these different outputs on the right, depending on what that script is, to use to change colors, segment, overlay. And this is what I mean. Historically, the place that I first came across generative systems was in seeing Solowit's wall drawings. And the idea that it was a script that he wrote out that then other people would execute, or looking at all the different permutations of how and like of incomplete cubes. I believe I have in here a really nice example where for the poster for a wall drawing show he had in 1974, at the top part of the poster, it shows the kind of diagram of how this made, where we have these 16 different shapes and then 16 different lines. And in the gallery, you know, it was going to be, the space was gridded to show all these different iterations of or combinations of lines. Or doing this with lighting processes, where we're looking at all the different permutations of light on an object. And it's not new. Like these kind of the ideas of generative systems like can go back really far in terms of textiles and pattern making. And while they can be incredibly direct and literal, they can also be very poetic, like is the case with Yoko Ono's instructions, right? Draw a map to get lost. One of my favorites, Painting for the Wind, where wind acts as the randomizer. Cut a hole in a bag filled with seeds of any kind and place the bag where there is wind. And so the wind becomes the activating force, the thing that makes it generative. These ideas, and this kind of gets into chance too, right? Like that chance becomes the other aspect of generating, and that here's like a 20-sided die from a really long time ago, 2nd century BC, right? Greece, or this like a Indus Valley civilization terracotta 6-sided dice that's 4,500 years old. One of my favorite kind of examples of getting randomness in this is Francois Morellet, who this piece is called Random Distribution of 40,000 Squares Using the Odd and Even Numbers of a Telephone Directory. To create this work, he used data from a telephone book as source material. After he divided the canvas into 40,000 squares, his wife or his sons read the numbers of the phone book out loud while he moved across the canvas, making a square for each number and skipping a square for each odd one. He then colored the marked squares blue and the blank ones red. So using a telephone book, here in this example, ARP was using gravity. Um, uh, this is called a collage with squares arranged according to the laws of chance. Jean Arp and the other Dada artists embraced chance as a tool for liberating creativity from rational thought. An account by his friends and fellow artist Hans Richter described how Arp made chance collages like this one. Apparently frustrated with a drawing he had been working on for some time, Arp finally tore it up and let the pieces flutter to the floor of his studio. Sometime later, he happened to notice these same scraps of paper as they lay on the floor and was struck by the pattern they formed. It had all the expressive power that he had tried in vain to achieve. How meaningful, how telling. Chance movements of his hand and of the fluttering scraps of paper had achieved what all his effort had failed to achieve, namely expression. He accepted this challenge and from chance as a decision of fate and carefully pasted the scraps down in a pattern which chance had determined. There's a really great Big Bear pamphlet by George Brecht called Chance Imagery that gets into a lot more ways that you can get randomness and random values. More recently, one of my favorites has been in the 90s, there was this way of getting randomness called Lava Rand, which was like a series of lava lamps that were set up and with webcams. And depending on what the camera saw would then be a seed value for a random number. And it was used, I guess, for encryption and things. Like, I think Oracle used it. I included in here Alison Knowles too. Her piece House of Dust, which was a kind of a generative house, a generative location, where we would get through the program would be given these different procedurally generated houses. A house of clay and heavy jungle undergrowth using all available lighting, inhabited by people who enjoy eating together. It's a really wonderful project. And more recently, one that I've really loved is this Twitter bot called Dungeon Generator that just every day kind of produces a series of dungeons. This dungeon is overrun with half-gnomes searching for a vault full of silver coin and pearls. And just watching it for like the last year or two, you can kind of pick up on the systems and understand how it structures things, but it's still surprising. Okay, and this kind of leads into Minecraft and back to this video, which this sounds a little louder than I wanted, but hold on, I'm gonna turn it down. Movie. Yeah, that volume's really loud on that. Let's get back in that. Yeah, so Minecraft was kind of my introduction to procedural generation in games, and this was like one of the first, like I think I saw this on Kotaku or a website, and it was this headline that was like Minecrafter Twitch streamer starts 17-day journey to the edge of a Minecraft map. And the whole thing being that it was going to take 17 days because the worlds are that big. And you could log in, or you could get on Twitch and watch this player in a minecart just going all the way to the end of the world. The creator, JL2579, which I think I found this maybe through YouTube first, like the kind of archived copy of this stream. And it pauses and freezes like this because it has to load the world in ahead of time. But yeah, they made a command block, which is like a little bit of programming that you can put in Minecraft that kept generating railroad track going all the way out to the edge of the world. So they just got into the minecart and could keep riding it all the way to the edge of the map. I found this mesmerizing and just kind of like a visualizer that I could watch for a while. And I was just kind of struck by the amount of generation happening here, that like this landscape was completely generated, that I could, at any point, I could hop off this rail cart and go down into that water and then dig down below, and there'd be a cave system underneath. And as long as I had that seed, I could kind of come back to the same place. But if I wanted to, I could start a new world that would be a completely new experience. And so one of the first things I did with Minecraft was wrote a little program that just opened Minecraft, uh, turned off the UI, took made a new world, turned off the UI, took a screenshot of the first thing that you see, and then closed the world, deleted the world, and then did that process over and over again. So this is a series of the first thing you see in different worlds, like the first thing your character would see, um, and just kind of points to the range randomness that could happen there. Um, the next thing is like, so not only is like the whole world being generated, right, and that it's all generated on that seed value, um, there are all these elements inside of it, from AI to the way grass spreads, that are affected by chance and randomness. So here I have this whole world that's just completely dirt, and I make one block grass, and now I speed up time in the game, and now we can just watch how that grass kind of spreads out over the world. And like, so every tick, which is like an in-game time measurement, there's a chance that it could spread. So I'm gonna stop sharing this presentation for a minute, and then log into a few different versions of Minecraft, talk a little bit more about like these kind of randomness that you can get. Okay, so which version we're at? Let me start up. There it is. So right now you should see the Minecraft like splash screen, and I'm going to need to come in here, and the first thing I want to talk about is how you can make random walkers in Minecraft. And so like a random walker in programming or in creative coding is the idea that you have this line, and then every frame it has a chance to move in one of the directions, and then over time it kind of keeps on moving. And so what I've done is I've attached a command block that any entity that has the name random walker will get a block of dirt underneath its feet at all times. So let's see what we have. These friends over here. Got a birdie named random walker, and as it moves, it's going to keep moving around. I'm gonna go ahead and get a dolphin and do the same thing. Now it has this attached to it, and so it's just going to keep going up and kind of make these random shapes. We got a bird that's coming up to follow it now. Let's get another. Come here. And so it can attach these things to it and just kind of generate these random lines. Right? What's going on over here? This bird's kind of like flying off this way. So here, right, the randomness is the pathing of the animals, right, or the different characters. This little bunny just does not want to move. You can see I was trying it before with like slime and stuff. It seems like the dolphin are the most like hoppy, like they're the ones that kind of ascend the quickest. Yeah, you can see this dolphin's already gone way up into the sky up there. Yeah. So yeah, that's the random walker one. The other kind of relationship to randomness I wanted to talk about is there was this really there was a April Fool's update that Minecraft did 2 years ago called the Infinite Edition. Right here, Infinite. Press play. You're about to play a version. Yeah, that's fine. That's cool. And so it's going to load in now. And this one kind of changed how the world generated, and it randomized the block placement. And I'd say for me, this is was one of the first gave me the inspiration for what I did for the residency. So this is exciting to show. Single player, create new world. And we're going to put it in creative and say create new world. And so when you load this up, it's normal. Like there's nothing out of place. But what they did is they added this new bookshelf to the game. And the bookshelf basically acts as a world generator. I'll show you what I mean. So come in here, yeah, just like a standard world, standard Minecraft world. And I'm going to go into the inventory. And when I go to book, there's this new book right here called Box of Infinite Books. And so whatever block you place this on, it has a location inside of it that gets written to a book. So if I right click it, so we've got all these different ones. Oh, right, yeah, so there it is. So if I click, got these books, right? And if I make a portal, some flint and steel. So normally a portal will take you to the Nether, which is this kind of like hell dimension that has harder mobs and a lot more chances to get hurt. Right, so if I went in here, come through here, it takes me to the Nether like this. But what these books do is if you throw them into, like this has coordinates on it, -16, -1, 1, 2, 7, 1, and those coordinates become a new dimension. So if I throw those through and hop on in, we get this dimension, which is wild. Okay, I'm gonna get out of here. And if I throw another book in there, let's see what this one is like. Can also crash. Oh, this one has a very different vibe. So all the blocks have been randomized, the shaders have been randomized so that the background colors are different, mobs can generate in different ways. It's turned it into like a really kind of like chromatic experience. Like it really just changes like the way you explore it. But they have this feature where I can type warp and go to the library. And the developers created their version of the Library of Babel from Borges, this kind of infinite library that runs. So it's loading in right now. It'll take a minute. But every one of these bookshelves contains a book. So let me just grab a book here. I got that book in my inventory. Let's kind of pull these out. Don't need those, just need these things here. And so each one of these contains a book. And, I can kind of keep going, right? This is like this infinite library that just kind of keeps moving and going all in all these different directions, and just spreads out through the whole Minecraft world. And each one of these bookshelves contains a book that will take you to a different world. So I just kind of found this place, and let's check this one out, see where this takes us. Right. Not big enough, there we go. And we throw that one in there. Got a kind of white portal, and there we go. So this world's kind of green. So yeah, earlier this summer on Twitch, I was logging on here and into this version of the game and just streaming, like going through, finding different worlds and seeing like how they look and how they change. This also feels connected, to No Man's Sky, the game that came out in 2016. That kind of, the whole point is that it's a whole universe that's simulated, that's procedurally generated, like some 17 trillion or billion planets, and like this is like Minecraft's maybe version of that, right? Where it's all that element, and taking all the different blocks and randomizing it, just slightly different effect. Okay, so that's Minecraft Infinite version. Other thing too, just when you can warp and then type in anything. So I could type in Travis, and I can like warp to the Travis world, right? So I think, and there are a few like Easter egg worlds that go to different places. I'm trying to remember like what some of those like seeds are on the Wikipedia. Like it talks about the different versions. Like, so this one's like based on the end, but with like orange wool. Okay, so let's get out of this version now. Oh, whoa, this one actually like changes the letter color. Okay, save and quit game. And I'm seeing there's chat. Hold on. Oh, Sarah. Awesome. Okay, cool. And what did I want to do? I wanted to go to the Minecraft launcher. Okay. I'll bring this over here for a minute. And I'm gonna bring up the server. Okay. So for my initial proposal for the residency, I proposed a new version of Minecraft where I like stripped out, or a resource pack for Minecraft that stripped out the textures and replaced it with randomized word. There's this tag in the textures called variants. So you can have like all these oak leaves, but they could have different words attached to them. And I wrote a short little program that replaces all the textures with randomized words. I tried it with different poems, like this is from Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass, and experimenting with typeface and text, and even just trying it with letters instead of words, where you could kind of go out and explore and try to find words, like a word search. And ultimately for the project, I'll show that in a second. It's like we ended up with this version that uses the end poem from Minecraft as the source material for it. So the language is already embedded in the game. And yeah, and so I want to kind of log in. That's like just so you can see an earlier version. I want to log in and show you multiplayer. All right, yeah. So this is the server, and I've replaced all the textures, right, with randomly generated words. And so there's a few things I wanted to talk about this. You can explore this online, but I wanted to talk about like a few different types of randomness that we found in here. One that like is really interesting is that down in my hotbar, the one in the middle, let me highlight it here, the compass, right? So that is a item that like the sprite for the compass changes depending on what direction you're in. So it's this way of like kind of animating text as well. And when you go into the nether, both the compass and the clock both start acting erratically because you're no longer in the overworld, so time and directions don't really function in the same way. And you get this kind of like randomized text that could come out of it. And reading through all the different blocks becomes this way of kind of seeing, getting generated language as well. There's a few things that still have like slight textures missing here. I'm gonna come back in here, and then I'm gonna turn off the resource pack so I can kind of talk about one more thing. Done. So I've this summer I got really into VCV Rack, which is like a digital modular synthesizer and like modular synthesis tool, and that uses lots of randomness. And so it's, as I've been thinking about randomness in all these other ways, started thinking about it in terms of music and ways of getting randomness in the game. So before, like we had the mobs that kind of floated around and made dirt. Here we have a dog that, as it moves around these blocks, it's randomizing this kind of pattern of lights that are turned on. And there are these ways that you can kind of make like 50-50 randomizers, for instance, which are like, if we look in here, we got a trident and a block. If I press this, one of these lights will light up. And depending on what item comes out here as to what it is. I showed this to Jonathan and Sarah and Kat, and Jonathan was like, "Oh, I've been working with something similar to this, like to make music," and so that launched me. Disconnect and cancel. Is it in this version? It is. Awesome. That's okay. I know what I'm doing. Go in this world. I know what I'm doing. So here we have some kind of sound generators that use randomness. Oh, maybe it won't let me do it. Okay, never mind. That was a mistake. Let's go back and see if it will load in the recent version. I may have just completely lost it. Okay, let's see if I completely destroyed it. I might have. I didn't think about the world height changing it. Oh yes, I totally did just ruin it. Oh no. Okay. All right. I know. I have another copy of it. Hold on one second. While I get that, I'm gonna throw it over to y'all if there's any questions.
Thanks. Here, let me turn on our video. So there's something to look at.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I can pull that back up if that's.
I have questions, but they're all like, I don't know if they're like answer them while you're trying to solve
Oh,
technical
I
problem
have a copy of
style.
the world. That's all. Like I just got to pull the copy of the world in.
Okay. Well, I'll
Mhm.
shoot with my first question, unless you want to go, Kat or John. Mine
Nope.
was a lot of the procedural generation and generative examples you showed us are working with randomness, with different kinds of randomness. And but of course, now a lot of generative art projects use machine learning, which feel like is a different approach fundamentally in some way. And I was wondering, so I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about sort of, have you used machine learning in your work? Do you think do you think of it as a fundamentally different approach to generative praxis? What advantages or disadvantages you see between the two approaches?
Yeah, like they're totally that I love the thing that I feel like I see a lot in machine learning talked about is the idea of latent space, that you have these different points, and then you can get options in between it, right? You can see all the variations between those two things. And like when writing like the programs that make painting, it's like I might not know the green that I want, but I might have a range of green values. And so randomness kind of lets me experiment with that and define that choice a little bit more. And so in that way, it's like I could see machine learning kind of being this way of helping define those things for yourself. Or it's like I could see how in creative, like I could see how, like, for instance, I could totally imagine Photoshop having a version of that where it's like these are the latent space options around this image that you have, and like you could pick one of those other ones. Um, uh, and so it's like, yeah, I've experimented with like StyleGAN, and but I think that the thing that I love about writing the programs the way I have is that they're so much more modular. Maybe like I could be like, I'm going to work on the leaf shape, or I'm going to work on the petal shape here, and I have a way of accessing that in a way that, like, with machine learning, I'm sure that's out there. Like I know that like I see artists that are working about it with it in that way, but it's not accessible for me yet.
Yeah, it seems to me, and I'm just spitballing ideas here, so don't want to get pinned down to this theory, but it seems to me that with procedural generation based on randomness, but there's maybe more room for like clear authorship, kind of what you're saying, like you can choose to work only on the leaf. It would be really difficult, I think, to train a network to keep the flower the same but change the leaf shape, for example.
Hmm.
Like that would involve I don't even know what would be involved with that, but it's not how machine learning is being used by artists in that way.
Yeah, and it's that way of like kind of continuously like redefining what I'm looking for in an image based off of the things that it makes. Um, but more generally, like I think Minecraft and understanding like how randomness was working in it just made me start thinking about the ways that art practices are scripted versus not scripted, and what parts of a practice are given over to chance and randomness and which parts aren't, and like what importance is it, like which parts are important for me to have a decision in and which parts are not important for me to have a decision in. um yeah, I got the world though, so it's back up. So let's I'm gonna hop back in and show you all this again. So I'll share the screen again. Mhm. Second desktop share. Okay. Minecraft saves. Okay. It's not coming up, so let me bring it in. You'll get to see my collection of worlds. Single player. There it is. Play. This is all to show you some like very cacophonous music that uses like a lot of chance operations.
We're into it.
Yeah, cool. Can y'all hear the sound?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, so as we look around, you can kind of see there's like a chance that that blocks will trigger, chance that not. And this is all just based on that thing of like there's a 50-50 chance that a trident will come out, which will activate it. And if a redstone comes out, it won't be activated because it doesn't have a strong enough signal. And so you can use this to kind of build these increasingly complicated systems of like of chance sound.
This is insane, and I love it.
Okay, I'm gonna pause this one, and I have another one over here I can do. And so depending on what block it's on, you can make these different kinds of sounds. And so this one over here was like an earlier one I made, which doesn't have as much yeah. Yes. Oh man,
Wow.
yeah.
Travis, do you want to do a residency again, but where you're a DJ?
Yes. Of course. So yeah, this has been a lot of fun.
Oh my god, did I just hear a cat? Oh my god.
I hear someone's cat. Cat?
That's a real life cat.
Oh, it's a real cat.
Yeah.
I think she was responding to me saying pumpkin, because that's a nickname of hers.
Oh.
And yeah, so that's so those are the things that I had to show for this, like all the different things I've been working on here. But yeah, should I go back to our like studio world maybe? Would that be the thing to do? Okay, awesome. Okay, so I do need to change modes again. So let's get out quick game. Like I'm just like hopping between different versions of Minecraft.
Very adeptly.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I luckily had a copy of it. It's it was like, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure you want to do this without having a backup? I was like, oh, nothing's changed. Like I didn't like there's no new blocks, and then I completely forgot about like how the world height completely changes everything.
So you have a backup. That was what we just saw. I'm so relieved.
Yes, yeah. I got a backup of the backup. Yeah. So let's go in.
I was showing a musician friend how to make that kind of music in Minecraft, and he had no Minecraft experience.
Yeah.
And using it, he was like, he did something. He was like, "Wait, where's the undo button?" It's funny how there's a lot getting in the way of trying to use Minecraft in the way that to make music.
And I feel like that. And that's like that gets at the heart of a lot of, I feel like what's the point with like emergent play? Like when people spend so much energy and effort inside of other people's systems to do something that they might be able to do way easier in other systems. That it's something I think about a lot, right? Like and when is it revealing something new versus like when is just someone like I guess the thing is, right, is that if I was to open like Reaper or something, I would not make music like that, right? It's like exactly. So it's there's that. Oh yeah, I'm putting chance language back on. Yeah, so that's what I got to share.
Well,
I
I want to immediately dig into the thing we just ended on a little bit.
Yeah.
But sorry, John and Kat, I wanted
no.
to ask, like, so why do you do something like use a system like Minecraft to make music when it might be harder than using a system aimed at making music? Is like what if you thought about it a lot, I'm curious sort of what the reasoning or what conclusions you came to about the motivation.
Well, I feel like there's a phrase that I've used a lot about this that's like the grain and the texture. That like much like how, and I think that's like in relationship to like using a Xerox or a photocopy machine in 2020, right? Like it's like there's in that reproduction there is like all of this new information that comes out of the process of using a Xerox machine. Like information is lost, information's converted into like tone, right? And in using any tool, it carries like a kind of a texture, and there's this really good Brian Eno quote that talks about the idea that when as soon as a sound is able to be emulated in another thing, it instantly becomes something that can be aestheticized. So like how 8-bit audio now is, or 8-bit like game music is something that like, you have chiptune music that comes out of it. That as soon as you're able to move past something, it becomes this place to then work with to do other things. And so I'm talking around it, but I'd say it's just like it has a different texture to it. It has another way of making that I wouldn't do in other software, and then I can then learn from that and apply it to other things. Um, and
Yeah, that
but
makes
also
sense.
it's there. But also, I think when I'm talking about that, I also maybe I'm thinking a little bit about how, like, in there you'll see like an article, it's like someone made a 1-bit computer inside of Minecraft using redstone, and I feel it a little bit there too. It's like that's a lot of time to spend on this, and like what is the value of it for the creator versus the value for people that see it. But maybe I'm thinking that it's like new things are revealed to you through that process and new ways of interacting with it.
Yeah, I think something I think about a lot with my own work is like the importance of being a user of the tools that I'm making the work with, because through their constraints and also sort of affordances, like what the tool makes easy, what the tool makes hard,
Hmm.
it ends up sort of being uh, part of the work in a way, or it informs the work. It's part of like this feedback loop of my own creative process. I've totally had moments where like a library that I'm using makes doing something really easy, and then I'm like, oh well, how can I change what I'm doing based on like what this tool affords,
Yeah.
or like the tool is the source of inspiration itself.
Do you? There's a. This is a general procedural generation question, but there's this like term in game development when people are talking about procedural generation that somebody said at a talk once, and now people talk about it a lot. But it's like the a million bowl of oatmeal problem,
Yeah.
where
That's
procedural.
Dr. Kate Compton. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I'm
Yeah.
so glad that you got the citation there. And it's this idea that very often when procedural generation is implemented, if it's not implemented well, instead of creating interesting results, you do get an infinite variety of results, but they're all bland. Like the difference is not interesting, and that's something. Speaking of that video game you mentioned, No Man's Sky, that was an early critique of the video game because they didn't necessarily have enough time to totally finesse it before releasing it, and it's had this problem of like infinite variety, but that variety not being very interesting.
Mhm.
Do you have any thoughts about what makes for good procedural generation or good randomness in terms of coming up with interesting results?
Well, like in the case of No Man's Sky, it's really fascinating. It's like I don't like the game that launched and where it is now. Like they've just added so much more, and so I think there's like definitely like a kind of level of detail that just becomes overwhelming. And like I feel like there's like if you're able to reach a level of detail, then that thing of the oatmeal goes away potentially. Not all the time, but like for instance, now I think when you go to a world in No Man's Sky, it doesn't feel like, oh, this is the same thing, just different colors or same thing. Like there's a lot going on, and even more so with something like Dwarf Fortress, where not only is the world generated, but then every dwarf and elf and warlock is generated, and every grandparent of that dwarf. And if that grandparent lost a finger, you can find out the story of how they lost that finger when training a horse, right? Like that. Not only is the world generated, but the character is, and the finger, the lost finger is generated. Like that
it's
story
almost like a fractal quality to the detail of like each level like containing that like richness of meaning, and then also having that relationship between the different levels of detail maybe.
Yeah, and I think that like I have a feeling that like there's like a potential future of entertainment that's based in this kind of generativeness.
Definitely.
Like I had this when Game of Thrones was out. I remember I watched it kind of late, and it was right around the same time that I was playing CD Projekt Red's Witcher 3, which is kind of a similar fantasy setting as Game of Thrones. And I was just really like the parallel of like watching Game of Thrones, where every character would get maybe 3 or 4 minutes of screen time, and then you wouldn't see him again to the next episode, versus in The Witcher, like if there's a character I like, I could literally watch them all day and then go and find out, like talk to their neighbors, and then find out about their kid and find out why their kid went missing in the woods, right? Like that was all handcrafted story, like that was done by a team. But I feel like I can extrapolate in my mind like GPT-3 generative tree systems that kind of create these different stories that you could play out and explore. And much the same way that 3 years on, I still love seeing dungeon generators tweets, which about like this kind of like a perfumed bee skull that's guarded by gnomes. Like it's like there's I think I could just see that. I can imagine like everyone has their own kind of characters that they can read about or are interested in this kind of infinite fractal way.
We should probably wrap up for time now, but it's really very enjoyable to sort of get whole new lenses on your practice, and then especially on the Ender Gallery residency, Travis. So folks, do check out Travis's exhibit, ender.gallery/how to join will lead you there. You can explore the world that you're seeing now yourself and experience the Chance Language Resource Pack to sort of get an even deeper engagement with the topics that Travis was talking about today. So thanks so much, Travis.
Thank you so much.
As always.
Yeah, this was absolutely incredible. I'm actually feeling kind of like overwhelmed by how much cool stuff I've seen in the last hour and 15 minutes. It's like,
thank you.
It's like, yeah, I stopped typing wow in the chat because I didn't want to distract you. Not because I wasn't thinking it.
Definitely got a few different Wikipedia pages up now.
Awesome. Yeah, well, I really appreciate the opportunity, yeah, like I said at the opening, I think that the kind of experience and residency you created here is so special, and I didn't even really get to get into like bee breeding and modded Minecraft and this whole other kind of world that I'm really interested in there.
Wow.
in Minecraft, but like all the mod packs and things, but it's just, I love that y'all put this together, and I'm really excited to see like the next iteration that Ender Gallery takes on.
Well, we're excited to figure out what that's going to be, because awesome. I will confess that we do not know right now.
However, for folks who are still interested in turning into the remainder of our programming series for this programming year. There is one remaining event that will be Travis's Minecraft field trip happening on January 8th. So that is same time as this event, so 12 p.m. Central Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and 7 p.m. Central European Standard Time.
Awesome.
So,
awesome. And on that note too, I'd say that like some servers are down now because of the Java log issue, right? Yeah, so
right.
like there's a lot of security issues with being on public servers. So I'm not sure if, like, for instance, the MC Middle Earth, where we can take the trip through my Middle Earth, I'm not sure if that server's up right now because of the Java hack. But hopefully by the time of our event, it will be.
Yeah. Oh, terrifying.
Yes. Yeah. Totally.
Hopefully we are able to do the field note. We will update you all.
Yeah.
Okay, goodbye, everybody. Audience.
Bye.
See you.